Page 384, Chapter 10, Lesson 2, Fossil Fuels. Name, class, date, Science F&T, Chapter 10, Lesson 2, page 384, Fossil Fuels. Main idea or essential question. Fossil fuels formed over millions of years from the remains of plants and animals. People depend on fossil fuels for most energy needs, yet using fossil fuels can harm the environment. Conservation, page 388. The efficient use of resources is called conservation. Conservation, efficient use of resources. Fossil fuels, page 384. Fossil fuels are energy resources formed from the remains of plants and animals that lived more than 100 million years ago. Energy resources formed from remains of plants and animals. Okay. Natural resource, page 388. Natural resources are products and materials found in nature that people use, such as soil, air, water, and fossil fuels. Found in nature, Zoop, people use. Non-renewable resource, page 386. One problem is that fossil fuels are a non-renewable resource, meaning they cannot be replaced quickly or easily. Cannot be replaced quickly / easily. Formation of fossil fuels. Formation of fossil fuels. During the Industrial Revolution of the late 1700s, people needed energy to run factories, machines, trains, and other new devices. Industrial Revolution, Zoop, late 1700s. They turned first to coal. Zoop, coal. Later, during the 1900s, people found that oil and natural gas were useful energy sources. But where do those resources come from? 1900s, oil, natural gas. Fossil fuels are energy resources formed from the remains of plants and animals that lived more than 100 million years ago. Plants / animals more than 100 million years. The main fossil fuels are coal, petroleum or oil, and natural gas. Coal, oil, natural gas. Most coal formed from the remains of plants that lived during the Carboniferous period. Carboniferous period, from 360 to 286 million years ago. Coal, Zoop, Carboniferous period, Zoop, 360 to 286 MYA, million years ago. During that period, Earth's climate was warm and the land was covered with swamps and shallow seas. Earth equals warm and wet, Zoop, swampy. Huge ferns and trees grew in the swamps. Ancient swamps were thick with vegetation. After the plants died, they slowly became fossil fuels. When the plants and animals died, they were buried under mud and sediments. Buried under mud / sediment. Over time, pressure from above squeezed the remains together, forcing out the water. Pressure. Squeeze out water. Left behind were substances rich in carbon and hydrogen. The remains gradually turned into coal, oil, or natural gas. Coal was formed from dead plant matter built up in shallow swamps. Oil and natural gas formed from remains of small marine organisms that were buried on the ocean floor. Oil and gas equals small organisms buried on ocean floor. The action of bacteria, heat, and pressure gradually changed the remains into oil and natural gas. Bacteria, heat, pressure. Once formed, the oil moved through cracks in rock below Earth's surface. When it reached a rock layer with no cracks, it collected into pools. Collected in pools. If natural gas was present, it collected above the pools of oil. as shown in the diagram on the next page. Okay, let's go look at that diagram like this. See? Pools of oil right there. And then the green, natural gas, because it's less dense or lighter, so it floats on top. Today, deposits of fossil fuels are mined all over the world, including California. Oil fields near Bakersfield produce over 500,000 barrels of oil every day. Hey, that's us. Bakersfield, specifically Oildale. Oh, that's why it's called Oildale, because of the oil. Okay, step 1, peat. In thick swamps, dead organic matter builds up, forming peat. Peat can be used as a fuel. So the stuff that gets buried under mud and sediment that's the peat. As peat is buried under layers of soil and sediment, the plant material is compressed and water is forced out. Lignite. Over the years, pressure compresses the material into bituminous coal. This is the most widely used coal. Miners use heavy machinery to dig out underground coal deposits, like in West Virginia. If the coal layer is subject to even higher temperature and pressure, it may form anthracite coal. This coal is almost pure carbon. Okay, how quickly does coal form? Coal forms over hundreds of millions of years because it comes from plants and animals that died over 100 million years ago. Coal, in particular, was plant material during a warm, wet, swampy period of Earth's ancient history. It's buried under mud and sediment and has to be squeezed with pressure over a long period of time to become coal. All right, next up, burning fossil fuels. Burning fossil fuels. Remember that plants get energy from sunlight and change it into food. So, sun, plants, food. When animals eat plants, they obtain energy that originally came from the sun. Food, animals. Fossil fuels are also a part of an energy chain that begin with the sun. Remember, the dead animals and the dead plants become fossil fuels? Energy from the sun is stored in fossil fuels. Energy from sun stored. Indeed, the energy is more concentrated in fossil fuels than in living plants. Concentrated. Burning the fuels releases most of that stored energy. Only a small fraction of that energy is locked in waste products. How are fossil fuels used to provide this energy? Making electricity is one way, as shown on page 377. Make electricity, page 377. If you remember on that page, that was the example of how burning fossil fuels can boil water to create steam, which spins a motor, turning a turbine, creating and generating electricity. All right, where were we? Many power plants run on coal. Thermal energy from burning the fuel is used to boil water. The steam turns turbines, which are like large fans. Generators convert the mechanical energy of the spinning turbines to electrical energy. This can be distributed to homes, schools, and businesses. Okay, we already know about that from page 377, so we're not going to redo that. Other fossil fuel products are burned in engines. Engines. Crude oil, or petroleum, is refined to make jet fuel for airplanes, and gasoline and diesel for fuel for cars, trucks, buses, and trains. Jet fuel, gas, diesel. The engines change the chemical energy stored in the fuel into mechanical energy. Natural gas is used to heat more than half of all homes in the United States. Heating, natural gas. Propane, a product from refined crude oil, is also used to heat homes. Propane. Propane also fuels many barbecue grills and outdoor stoves. Are fossil fuels the best choice for meeting energy needs? Many people are asking this important question. One problem is that fossil fuels are a non-renewable source, meaning they cannot be replaced quickly or easily. non-renewable. People are using fossil fuels much more quickly than natural processes are replacing them. People using much more quickly than natural processes replacing. At present rates, Earth's supply of fossil fuels will run out someday. Will run out someday. Burning fossil fuels also pollutes the environment. Pollutes environment. To understand how bad the problem can become, consider industrial cities such as London, England in the late 1800s. Smoke and soot produced by burning coal often filled the skies over London. Smoke and soot. At times, people could barely see the sun. Barely see sun. Many people died from respiratory illnesses during the worst periods of pollution. Respiratory illnesses. Today, strict laws and better technology help reduce pollution from fossil fuels. Laws and technology help reduce. Even so, air pollution from factories and automobiles remains a serious problem, especially in urban areas. Burning fossil fuels also releases carbon dioxide gas into the air. Scientists are debating the effects of this change to Earth's atmosphere. Many scientists argue that this is causing global temperatures to slowly rise, an event called global warming. Global warming, and now today we call it climate change. Oil, petroleum is refined into fuel for many types of vehicles, including cars, trucks, and airplanes. Natural gas is used for heating in many homes. It is burned in fireplaces, heaters, water heaters, and stoves. Coal has long been used as an energy source for factories and power plants. What are some problems caused by burning fossil fuels? Okay, well, some problems caused by burning fossil fuels include global warming and climate change, pollution to the environment, and the fact that we're going to run out of these resources someday. So we'll have to find other sources. Now also, remember that from our previous chapter about forms of energy, that most of this energy is getting put off as heat. Mostly heat is being let go. You're not really actually doing that much work. Remember, machines are not 100% efficient. So most of that energy is going out as mostly heat. Okay, conservation of fossil fuels. Natural resources are products and materials found in nature that people use, such as soil, air, water, and fossil fuels. Conservation of fossil fuels, natural resources. Conserving non-renewable resources is very important because they cannot be replaced. Cannot be replaced. The efficient use of resources is called conservation. Efficient use equals conservation. By not wasting fossil fuels, you can save them for the future. Another reason to conserve fossil fuels is to reduce pollution. Reduce pollution. Smoke from burning these fuels can mix with water droplets in the air to form smog, which is unhealthy to breathe. Smog. Other waste gases from fossil fuels mix with raindrops to form acid rain, another environmental problem. Acid rain. Acid rain can kill trees and fish and damage buildings and statues. You and your family can help to conserve Earth's important resources by following some simple common sense practices. Use public transportation or form carpools. Public transportation. Carpool. Turn off electric lights and appliances when not in use. Turn off. You also can change clothes to fit the weather instead of turning up heat or the air conditioner. Clothes, AC, or heat. Use curtains to help keep warm or cool air inside the house. Curtains. Recycle materials such as paper, plastic, and metals. Recycle. Most cars run on gasoline, a petroleum product. As petroleum reserves are used up, its cost is likely to rise even higher. See how gasoline costs continue to rise? And that was 15 years ago. Costs rise over time. All right, phase 2, the summary. Fossil fuels were made from the remains of plants and animals that lived millions of years ago. When fossil fuels are burned, most of their energy is released as heat. Most released as heat. That's where this came from, burning fossil fuels, mostly heat. Okay, so fossil fuels, millions of years, remains of plants and animals. People depend, energy needs, harm the environment. Fossil fuels are a convenient source of energy, yet burning them creates air pollution and causes other problems. Harm the environment. Fossil fuels are a non-renewable resource. They are being used up and cannot be replaced easily. Using public transportation helps conserve fossil fuels. Conservation, efficient use, fossil fuels, energy resources, non-renewable, cannot be replaced quickly or easily. Formation of fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas. Everything else is already in the main idea. Burning fossil fuels, mostly heat, non-renewable, will run out someday, pollutes environment, global warming, climate change. Okay, anything else is also in the main idea. Conservation of fossil fuels, cannot be replaced, reduce pollution, public transportation, turn off, AC and heat, curtains, recycle. Costs rise over time. All right, now let's do it with our brain and the red pen and the star. Fossil fuels, millions of years, remains of plants and animals, energy needs, harm environment, conservation, fossil fuels, formation of fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas. How are they formed? They're buried under mud or sediment. Pressure squeezes all the water out over a long period of time. Burning fossil fuels. Mostly it's wasted as heat. These are things we do, like we use petroleum in engines, or we use natural gas to heat. They're non-renewable. They pollute the environment, causes global warming and climate change. Conservation of fossil fuels. There's a lot of way we can conserve our fossil fuels. All right, phase 3, remember to connect what you know in your brain to what you wrote on the paper. Again, it comes from your brain into your e-binder, not from the paper to the e-binder. Make a prediction and give a reason why. Give a because. And then when you do your phase 4 summary paragraph, fossil fuels formed over millions of years from the remains of plants and animals. People depend on fossil fuels for most energy needs. Yet using fossil fuels can harm the environment. Okay? It takes millions of years for fossil fuels to form into coal, oil, and natural gas. They are a non-renewable resource because they cannot be replaced quickly or easily. When we burn fossil fuels, most of the energy is wasted as heat. We will run out of it someday, and it pollutes the environment, causing a lot of problems. So we should conserve fossil fuels. And there are many ways to do that, including carpooling and turning down the heat or turning up the AC, and recycling. Costs will always rise over time. Okay, see how we tied all that together? How slow or how long it takes them to form, how much of it's wasted as heat, and all the problems it causes. Therefore, we should conserve and use as little as possible for all those reasons. All right, good job persevering with a growth mindset, and roar, Wildcats.